Welcome to WIN Talk Radio, where you will learn how to talk truth and take action. Hosted by WIN, Women Impacting the Nation. Join your hosts, Sue Trombino, founder and president of WIN, Debbie Healy, public policy advisor for Faith, Family, and Freedom, Carrie Campos, co-founder of Self-Evident Ministry, and Jannique Stewart, founder of Love Protects Ministry and speaker with Life Training Institute. For more information about WIN Talk Radio, go to our website at womenimpactingthenation.org. Because remember, when we show up, we win. Well, welcome back to our WIN Talk Radio, and we are so excited for our show today, for you all to get to know a group called the JEXIT group. And we have with us today Sofia Manolesco, if I pronounced that right.
Yes, you did.
And anyway, we're just really excited that you're joining us today. And, you know, as we move along our tour, we are on our bus with Liberty. Actually, Liberty is our bus. And so if you tend to hear some planes going by or helicopters or rain, that's because we're on the road. We've got to keep the wheels of the bus rolling. But anyway, we're very, very excited today to talk about an incredible group of gals that I had the privilege of meeting a while ago. And the gal, and I know Sofia's going to tell us about the other two gals, but one is Michelle Terrace and the other one is Karen Basil. And Basley?
Basley.
Yes.
Yes.
I am so sorry about that. But and then Sofia, they started a group called JEXIT. And so I am just so excited, to have you here, Sofia. And, please tell our audience and tell us, first of all, tell us your story, because you came from Romania.
Yes.
And so tell us about that, and then we'll get into how you guys, got together, how you met Karen, how you met Michelle, and how you guys started JEXIT.
All right.
And as you can see, you have JEXIT here, and you have JEXIT, and I had JEXIT shirt, but I left it at home, and I'm so sorry. But
and JEXIT meaning Jews exiting the Democrat Party.
Exactly. So it's
Okay.
really awesome. So and it's amazing. We're going to get into the difference that you all made in this last election. But anyway, so tell us a little bit about you.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, I'm very honored to be here. So I was born in Romania under Ceausescu's socialist dictatorship, because, communists never like to call themselves communists. They like to call themselves socialists. And I grew up in Romania until I was 11 years old. And then after that, my mother fled the regime through France, and she ended up in Canada. And my father and I were separated from her for about 2 years until they allowed us to leave the country and join her. So I got to spend my early childhood in a communist country. I remember very well what it was like. And then I got to travel and live in different places. I spent a little bit of time in France, but I mostly after that grew up in Canada. So I got to experience different kind of regimes, if you want, from hardcore socialism to, a little lighter socialism to the socialism in Canada. And I wanted to come to the United States because this is where the impossible is possible and has been done before.
Amen.
And there's no Canadian dream, there's no French dream, there's no Romanian dream, but there is an American dream. And I had that in mind, and I came here almost 30 years ago now on my own with an old Jeep and 3,000 Canadian dollars. And I did everything to become, first to have a green card and to be a legal immigrant here, and then to become an American citizen. And I love this country. One of my proudest moments was when I swore allegiance to the flag and I became an American citizen.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
I'll say I was raised with conservative values, but I did not know the kind of politics that are happening here in the United States. I didn't realize that political parties have a generational, a longitudinal life, a generational message that goes from one president to the other. And I didn't know any of this. So I came in, I voted for Bush when I got my citizenship, and then Bush messed everything up. And I saw what happened, and we were on the brink of a financial disaster. And that's when I said, oh no, I can't vote for his policies again. Let me vote for the other side. Not knowing. Okay, so I went ahead and I became a Democrat, and I voted for Obama.
We forgive you. We have forgiveness around here. No,
but it's okay. You better, because everybody else voted for McCain and Mitt Romney, and look where that got them. So it's not really like we weren't all fooled.
Right.
I was fooled because I didn't know how that politicians in the United States of America are propped up and presented like actors in Hollywood, right? It's a fake facade. I didn't even know they had their speeches written for them. Okay, I just didn't know. So I bought into that whole marketing campaign. And, you know, granted, Obama was better than Hillary at the time, at least I thought. And so I went that way. But then I started recognizing in the discourse and in what was going on, things that I experienced in a communist country. And I began to see, and it's difficult when you haven't lived in communism, it's hard to understand how insidious it is. But the way, it's like a cancer. It comes from different angles. Like right now with the COVID, for example, one of the things in communism is you want to have like the great equalizer. You want to eliminate social classes. And so the way they're doing it with COVID, for example, in Canada and in some places here, is with the vaccine passport, when they're giving low-end employees power over customers, right? Like in Canada, you can't do anything. I just went to visit my mother, and you can't do anything unless you have a vaccine passport, because they will ask for it. And when you go to have a cup of coffee, you walk in there, and there's a 16-year-old barista at Starbucks, you know, asking you for your papers. And so that's how Marxism, how insidious it is. So now you're eliminating social classes, you're eliminating, and you know, it's not her fault, she doesn't know what she's doing, but that's how they use every reason they can to control and equalize things. And so I began to see this under Obama, see things that were happening, and also his policies towards Israel, and also his hate of God. And we all know God is freedom because God gave us free will. But when you eliminate God, you're eliminating free will, because now your orders come from the state. And I started seeing all these things, and I said, what have I done? And so I became an independent. I said, I don't trust either party. They don't exist. It's one party, two heads, pretending to be two parties, pitting each other. You know, they're having steak at each other's weddings. You know, look at Bush and Clinton, and oh, my son, oh, my dad, right? But the people at the bottom are, you know, killing each other and hating each other. But these people, you know, they vacation together and they live together and they party together.
That's right.
And I started seeing what Trump called the swamp. I would call it the peanut butter and jelly, right? I said, there's, you know, these people here change. These people at the bottom don't know what's going on. And then you have the keys to the kingdom in the middle. Once I saw that, I became an independent. I said, I don't trust them. I don't trust them. And then Trump came down the escalator, and I said, he's going to be such a pain in their... on both sides. Okay, I said on both sides. He's going to give them the pain they earned and they deserve. And that's how I was brought back into the fold. And then I began to learn about you know, American politics and about how the plan gets carried forward and how it works. And, you know, then I really got involved, and I opened my eyes and I became awake. Whereas before, I was going by, you know, the marketing, and you know, you'd think, having grown up in a communist country, I wouldn't fall for it. But, you know, it was like Ceausescu in color, right? With like lights and blinking lights and little Vegas and music and look at this. And it really is a form of hypnotism on people. And that's how my journey to how I got here.
So you were awake. You're not woke, but you're awake.
I'm awake, not woke.
Yes.
God forbid.
Yes. Now, can you tell us then a little bit about how JEXIT started, which again is the Jewish Exit? How did this organization, and just so you know, the website is jexitusa.org. Again, that's jexitusa.org. So how did JEXIT actually form?
Well, Michelle Terrace, who is the founder of JEXIT, myself and Karen Basley, we met behind the supervisor of elections when we were protesting the attempted theft of our election when Gillum tried to take the election away from DeSantis.
So what year was that?
So this was in 2018.
Okay.
Right. So that was in 2018 behind the supervisor of elections with our signs. I had my sign that said Brenda Snipes systemic sabotage, because that's what it is.
Absolutely.
Right. And Michelle had a sign that said supervisor of corruption. And we wanted to do something to save the country. And so we were there for about a week in the parking lot with our signs. Our group discovered the broken seals from the ballot boxes. And so we brought that to the attention of the campaign. Yes, we were there. They wouldn't let our people go in to witness what was going on, the counting of, and we really fought really hard. And they didn't let our people to go in and supervise how they were counting and see what was going on. And so we made a stink until they let our people in. And we basically helped. We were part of the original Stop the Steal.
Oh,
and we
nice.
helped
Now, did the three of you, know each other before? Or
No,
did you
we did
meet
not.
There.
We met there, and we're like a family. We're like sisters. We're not, it's very. We must have been sisters in another lifetime, because that's how we argue and that's how we interact and that's how we and we're like a squad, right? We're doing this thing. We started doing this. Michelle had the idea of Jews exiting the Democrat Party, and we're like, that's great. Let's do it. And so we put our organization together. We went and we spoke on Capitol Hill against Ilhan Omar and her anti-Semitic and Rashida Tlaib and all these anti-Semites in Congress. And we started bringing that to people's attention. We became advocates for Jewish voices. We spoke up for children. We had a rally for a little girl in Boca Raton who actually in her class they started writing swastikas on the desk, and the principal and the teachers actually had the guts to say that this was free speech, and so we had a rally against that. We went and we spoke against Larton, the principal who denied the Holocaust at Spanish River. Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of activism and gathering people and gathering momentum, and getting people to join our cause.
And now, what was your political background? What's your, what was your major? I mean, obviously, political science?
No, not at all. My first degree was in theater arts, and my second degree in psychology.
So you got engaged. You got out of your comfort zone, and because you saw what was happening in this nation.
I had to.
And you said, I've got to do something.
I did not come to the United States of America to be lorded over by Marxists who want to bring us down to the lowest common denominator human beings have. We are free in this country to pursue our dreams. The United States is where the impossible is possible and has been done before and is being done every day. I see around me people, they start a little business, they grow their business, they work at their business, they succeed in their business. Only here in the United States of America do we have that entrepreneurial sense and that freedom to try to, sky's the limit, to pursue the dreams.
And how are people responding to you?
Very well. I have to say that we have, obviously, there's a certain demographic that you just can't reach,
right,
because they're totally brainwashed, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little more later. But overall, people are very receptive, and we get people saying, "Oh yeah, they're one of us, but they just don't know where to go."
Right.
People want to have a voice, but they felt isolated. Little pockets here and there. And now, as our movement is growing, we're offering them a platform and a place where they can join and know that they're not alone in their conservatism.
Do you see a lot of people understanding that communism is a very real threat in the United States?
More and more now. I think that they weren't taking it so seriously until they actually started seeing some of the measures that are being put in place.
Sure.
And even though the hard left, is still, a lot of them are still not responding, and a lot of them are lying because they know the truth. They're just lying.
Right.
Well, or perhaps I think there are a lot of people who are deceived because, as you brought up Marxism is a worldview that a lot of people may not recognize that they're buying into that false ideology. It's a very dangerous ideology. But you mentioned obviously coming out of communism, and that means you definitely see the rise of some of these Marxist ideals.
Yes, I do. And it's disgusting. It's terrifying to want to turn people into government puppets. You got to be a free individual and try to be the best that you can be. And we give people a hand up, not a hand down. We don't want to have a society of lazy, entitled, hopeless, helpless human beings waiting for someone else to give them, like in every other country in this world. Do for me, give for me,
Well, it's Sofia, that I came from Venezuela. So I've lived in a socialist country. I've lived pretty much all over the world. And I think sometimes, when you've lived in that country, in a country like that, like you did and like I did, you see what is right. You see the banana republic. You see what's right and what's wrong. And then you come here to the States, the land of the free, the home of the brave, and free enterprise. And yet, unfortunately, when you have the Marxists, as I think Jannique alluded to, is that you have, it starts in, number one, the media. It starts in colleges, and they start to, teach all this ideology. And because it sounds good, all of a sudden they kind of follow that road until it becomes personal. And we talk about this all the time, but all of a sudden now it's become personal. Mm-hmm. So when it becomes personal, now people are starting to be engaged. But like what you all did, I wanted to talk about this, is that, I tell you what, we're going to go to a different segment because I really want to talk about how JEXIT made a massive difference. And I want to go through some statistics, but it's just really important that people really get educated with what they believe and why they believe it, because then you can start standing, and that's what you did. You saw, how you grew up. Now all of a sudden you came here, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. That's not going to happen on my watch. But anyway, so we're just really excited about coming back and talking to Sofia in our next segment. And, check us out at 844-946-8255. And we'll be right back when you get a chance. Bye-bye. Ephesians 6:13 says, "And having done all, you stand." But what are you standing for? We at Wind Talk Radio, we stand for truth and facts, not emotion and conjecture. And our tagline at Wind Talk Radio is talk truth and take action. So come join us, take action to save our republic, to ensure our liberty. Because remember, when we show up, we win. Well, welcome back to our Wind Talk Radio and our segment with Sofia Manolesco, and she is with JEXIT. And I wanted to ask Sofia, a lot of you may not know that JEXIT means Jews Exiting the Democrat Party, kind of like Blexit. No, so the JEXIT came after Blexit. So Blexit was the blacks exiting the Democrat Party. Now they have Lexit, which is the Latinos exiting the Democrat Party. But when I met you all, I think I met Michelle first, and then it was Karen, then I think I met you afterwards. But what I noticed is we kind of came together as a coalition about kingdom building, not castle building groups with Tom Trento. And he brought in JEXIT, and I've been working with Tom, and just a small coalition of different ministries and different groups coming together so we can work together, and instead of everybody doing their separate thing. But what was really amazing, what I found, Sofia, with you all, why I really gravitated to you all, and I think what you do is amazing, is that you were out there educating. You went into the Jewish community, you educated, because a lot of people say, why do the Jews vote Democrat? So I want you to answer that. But the second thing I want to kind of go over is that what I found was really awesome is after you all jumped in with both feet and your arms, you guys just jumped into this, and you were out there everywhere talking to everybody. The most that the Jewish people voted for a Republican presidential candidate was 23%. 23% went, I believe, was for Bush, and 21% was for Romney. But the Jewish people that voted for Trump was 43%. I think it was 43%.
41 or 43%.
And
yes.
that's just a massive jump. And so, what do you attribute that to? I mean, education, getting out there, just talking to people. But anyway, answer those questions if you could.
Well, I think that President Donald Trump is a best friend to the Jewish community. And what he has done for Israel, I mean, with putting the capital, the embassy in Jerusalem, and all the policies, against anti-Semitism on college campuses, withholding funds from the colleges that were not abiding by that. He's really been there for the Jewish community all the way, his policies towards Israel, and the peace in the Middle East. I mean, the Abraham Accords, they glossed over that, but that is huge. Countries that were mortal enemies of Israel then became, Israel's allies and partners. And also, what he's done for the economy, he was just such a pioneer in Jewish rights. And that's when a lot of Jewish people, I think, opened their eyes and realized that, voting for him would be a good idea. He's done a lot for the Jewish community.
So why do you think, though, there are so many Jews what is it why do most of them vote Democrat?
It's not a simple answer. First of all, a lot of them are in that age bracket where we're talking about the Democrat Party of Kennedy. We're talking, a lot of people are they're so ingrained, and they've always been Democrats, and their families have always been Democrats, and they just did not pay attention to that moment when the Democrats became Marxists and opened their doors to people like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, who are overtly anti-Semitic, but they are being shielded, and they have this shield they're using, this covered, who is called Bernie Sanders, okay? And Bernie Sanders is about as Jewish as Mitt Romney is into Christ.
Christian.
They're lying, right? We're talking about people in Congress who pretend to be something, right? And another thing is that most Jewish politicians happen to be Democrats, so they're on the left. And so the Jews sticking together, wanting to vote in politicians who are going to look after their interests, felt more represented by the left. And historically, being more on the Democratic side, feeling like a minority, siding with minorities. There was a time when the Democrat Party fit more into that narrative, or at least, in appearance, because we all know that the Democrat Party is the party of the KKK, and that everything that they have ever done has been against minorities. But the image that was being put out there, and again, the Kennedy era and all of that, I think left them thinking that they had more representation on the left, and also the fact that a lot of them are terrified of white supremacy, and they've been brainwashed to think that on the right, it's white supremacy, and that would answer probably.
Sure. Because a lot of that is just false messaging.
Of course,
especially when you consider the rise of Marxism, which again, as we said in segment 1, that is a worldview, but we see it being echoed in Black Lives Matter. We see it in many different, again, the movement. We see all these different movements, but I also think that a lot of this is coming from the universities, where there seems to be a promotion of socialism. There seems to be a lot of this Marxist ideology, and therefore there is also an increase of anti-Semitism. I actually want to get your view on this. According to the Anti-Defamation League, which tracks incidents of anti-Jewish violence, they've seen a 75% increase in anti-Semitism just in the past 2 years. Even in New York City alone, they said they've seen over 80 anti-Semitic hate crime reports. Do you also see an increase of anti-Semitism?
Well, yes, obviously, we get so much, people report to us and we get news of what's going on. And because of the affiliation of Black Lives Matter with the Palestinian cause, there's been an increase in hate towards Jews. And, there's violence. Orthodox Jews can't walk around without being attacked. We're talking about, Brooklyn. We're talking about violent crimes in the United States of America against those Jews who happen to be more visibly Jewish, right? Because the Orthodox Jews and the conservative Jews who are on the right are being persecuted by those on the left, and the Jews who are on the left haven't opened their eyes to the fact that their leftist, BLM allies are actually anti-Semites.
So why are we not hearing about this in the news?
Well, we're not really hearing about anything in the news because the news are propaganda.
Right.
And the news are, if you think about, there's a handful of people and they own the media and they own the politicians. And so the politicians are actors. The media is the means through which they get their message out.
Of course.
And at the very top, you've got these donors who pull the strings and who control the message and who hedge their bets. They'll put just as much into Fox as they do into MSNBC and CNN. And now we have that fake narrative, like I was saying earlier, about one beast, two heads, pretending to have two sides and making the people fight and finding another thing and exacerbating racial tensions and scaring this, and it's just what they do. Because once they get your emotions, you no longer have rational thinking. And so the purpose of the media is to get people's emotions, to get them going. I think that we're talking about, when you say why we're not hearing more, because if they heard more, then they would have critical thinking. And they would be able to, see for themselves. But because they're kept in a constant state of opinions.
Confusion and lies.
Exactly, it's confusion and lies. The politicians, and we're talking about the Jewish community, the Reform Jews, the Jews who are on the left, treat their political views like religious views. All right, they are so ingrained and they are so brainwashed and scared into that. And the mechanism of brainwashing, first you get someone's emotions, you scare the people. Once you've scared them, you've got them. Now they're listening to the narrative. Then they turn to Hollywood and all their favorite stars and singers and Barbara Streisand and everybody they grew up with, they agree with them. And then they turn to, 60 Minutes and all these, journalists who've been there their entire lives, agree with them. And then they turn to, their left-wing politicians and they see that they have Jewish names and, then they agree with them. So they're in a bubble. They're not allowed, there's like a matrix, the lies, the deceit that comes from, the dark side is so thick that they're not exposed to anything else. Everywhere they look and everybody they love and everybody they trust and everybody they admire agrees with their fear. And so why would they want to look at anything else? And that's how this entire hypnotism without, the googly eyes. They're hypnotized, they're lied to, they're brainwashed, and that's the technique to do it.
Well, and it's typical of propaganda. They just keep hearing it over and over and over. And, you hear a lie often enough, it becomes the truth to you, to what your foundation is.
And they don't take the time to see that, for example, someone like a Bernie Sanders, and I keep coming back to him because he is Jewish only genetically. All right, he's not a real Jew. And Chuck Schumer and all these other people in politics, who say, "Oh, I'm Jewish." No, you're Jewish genetically, but you don't practice your Judaism.
Debbie Wasserman.
All right, right. We're Debbie and all and Ted Deutsch and all these people who are on the left. Oh, they're so Jewish. They're not. Okay, they're not Jewish. People in Congress who've been sitting there forever. All right, I'm neither Christian nor Jewish. They're self-serving, self-centered, serving the dark side, serving their donors. They sold out. They don't represent the people. And it's not, them individually, they're lost souls. We need to pray for them and not judge them individually. But their behaviors and the things that they believe in and the messages that they're putting out there are just dark and evil. And it's all about this prison, this darkness that just
and those are the
keeps them there.
consequences that we are seeing on a day-to-day basis. The anti-Semitism increasing in this nation.
But I also think it's critically important that you all are having a significant impact in politics, but also you are reaching more people. In fact, I know that you all have even there are more people who have become aware of JEXIT, such as Siggy from the Real Housewives of New Jersey. Is she the spokesperson now for JEXIT?
Yes, she's our spokesperson, Siggy Flicker, and she's wonderful. She's out there meeting Trump on a regular basis and doing a lot of work for us behind the scenes. And we're very grateful for her. And we have, like I said, because we're out there and because we are activists and because we're not owned by anybody. We don't go around, of course we accept donations, but that is not our primary purpose. We're not out there, bothering people for money, and we don't have donors who tell us what to do. We are driven by a message of truth, and we are independent thinkers, and we're out there offering people a different kind of message. We speak, we're not afraid, we're protesting, we do rallies. We just opened in Broward another club called the America First Patriots Club. You can find it at patriotsclub.com. And now we started working with black pastors, and we're uniting with the African American vote in Broward. We just had at our last event, we had half a dozen pastors and reverends who came, and they're going to help us. They're going to help us get to the congregation and bring a message there. And so we're all working together now in Broward with this new club. And with our JEXIT, we've got our tentacles, I don't know if I'm supposed to say or not, but we've been in touch with some people from higher places who are probably going to look for us to help them with the Jewish vote.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Well, you know, it's I had the privilege of meeting Siggy a couple times, and she was at a one of my really good friends, Linda, up in West Palm Beach, and she's amazing. She really is.
She's fearless.
She comes, she's not only fearless, and this I think we have to bring to light here with women impacting the nation. We are on the front lines of the battlefield, and when you're on the front lines of the battlefield, that's when you're going to see the miracle of God. And you all are fearless. I mean, you are women truly impacting this nation, and she is, because she's fearless, because when you know truth, when you know what you believe and why you believe it, you can stand against really the wiles of the devil. And you gals are standing because you know truth. You've seen it from Romania, Michelle with her background, and Karen. You guys have come together, you're standing for truth. Then you bring on other people, because people are looking for people like you, Sofia, that their yes is their yes and their no is their no. And you're looking for people, or people are looking for you, actually, and people like us that, wow, there's truth. And I really encourage everybody to stop. In the next 9.5 months, when start January, you will have 9.5 months to save this republic. And I know you all are looking at 4 women right here, 2 groups, JEXIT and Women Impacting the Nation, that are, we're all in. And you need to be all in. There has to be all hands on deck this time, because you have 9.5 months to save this republic. And we are a republic. And, but, you know, I really want people to stop. Just try it. Try stopping watching the media. There's nothing that they're saying that is factual.
Right.
It is all sounding good. And like we talked about, you know, when you said Bernie Sanders isn't really Jewish, and Chuck Schumer, they just talk a street, just like
they're actors.
Lois Frankel, Ted Deutsch, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They tell the Jewish people what they want to hear. It sounds good, and unfortunately they're not going to. Most people aren't going to go do their due diligence. They just kind of, I like them, they sounds good. So if it sounds good, that's a red flag. And not one of those 3, if you go see how they voted, don't vote for the Jew, right?
No, they don't.
But I just really, I know Jannique is gonna end us out here, but I really would just like everybody to go and go to JEXITUSA.org.
Yes.
And go and support these groups. This is the group that you want to go and listen to. You know, like even the UnitedWest.org or com. What was it?
TheUnitedWest.org.
Everything's org. Sorry. Anyway, but the point is that these are the kind of groups that you really want to go listen to, not the propaganda media, because it's not what they're saying; it's what they're not saying. And so. Anyway, but I just
There's only, can I just say something quickly?
Absolutely.
There's only 15 million Jews in the world, 15. Most people don't know that. Only 15 million Jews in the world, 6 million of them live in Israel. If you are anti-Israel, you're an anti-Semite. If you're an anti-Zionist, you're an anti-Semite. It is the new anti-Semitism disguised as anti-Zionism, and this is what they're doing on the left right now with Rashida Tlaib and Bernie Sanders and Omar and all those people.
Now, I'm glad that you actually said that, because that's actually a perfect segue here. On their website, so again, that's JEXITUSA.org. Again, JEXITUSA.org.
Right there. Look at the hat too.
Yes, right here and there. You actually have that on the website. That underneath your mission, you talk about that the Democrats have turned their back on Israel. And so I think that's actually critical, that as the viewers, whenever you're hearing some of these speakers, even the ones that you think you side with, do your homework to find out, what do they really believe? When you hear, and listen, we should never be silent when we hear or when we see anti-Semitism, because that means we're part of the problem, we're not the solution. The solution is to stand up, to speak truth, to not back down and become a coward, but to actually advance that which is truth. That's the goal, is how do we advance truth? But I also think that it's critically important that we're passing that down to the next generation, because at the university level, there's an awful lot of Marxist ideals. So you have to ask yourself, are you buying into Marxist ideology? Are you buying into communism and socialism? Because if you are, where you see those things, you will also see anti-Semitism raise its ugly head, and that's evil. Today we have been joined, and we're so grateful that you've been here. Thank you so much for being a voice.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so glad. Again, JEXITUSA.org. Is there any takeaway that you want to leave for the viewer?
Yes, please do not be silent and don't be afraid. And most of all, know that they are lying, and they know they're lying, and they pretend they don't know they're lying, but they know they're lying. Okay.
Wow,
What
wonderful.
about an action step?
Yeah. Alinsky style, right?
That's
That's
right.
what he taught them to do.
Yes.
He taught
Do you-
them how to lie.
Do you have any action steps for people who want to know, for example, how do they get involved? What would you tell people how to get involved, or even why they need to get involved?
Okay, well, sign up on our website so that you can get our information and literature. Starting in January, we're going to start working on opening chapters. And in the meantime, if you want to help us, just go to JEXITUSA.org. Find us on JEXITUSA on Instagram and on Twitter. Follow us and spread our message. Share our posts and help. You can start helping us with that. And in January, come join the party.
Yes. Last point is another takeaway. I want you to consider, are you one of the individuals who buys into this ideology that you don't talk about religion and politics? You see, we can't do that anymore. You can't use that as an excuse for being silent, apathetic, and indifferent. We all need to take a stand and fight so that we can ensure liberty and save our republic. So again, you've been here with us for another episode of Win Talk Radio, Women Impacting the Nation, where we talk truth so you can take action. Please remember that when we show up, we win. Again, we want to thank our guest Sofia for joining us today. Please continue to share and subscribe, womenimpactingthenation.org. If you have any topic ideas, please feel free to share them with us. Our phone number is 844-946-8255. Thank you. Show up so we can win.
Thank you for joining us at Win Talk Radio. For more information, contact us at womenimpactingthenation.org for questions, suggestions, or for more information, call us at 844-946-8255. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Win Talk Radio. And remember, when we show up, we win.